Hello, everyone, and welcome to what I'm hoping will be the series premiere of Star Trek, a Star Trek Adventures actual play using the rules by Modaphius Entertainment. My name is ELH, the Game Master, and if you're seeing us anywhere on YouTube, just know that we have tried this multiple weeks in a row, and due to scheduling demons and just the real world shitting all over us, yeah, it's been really fun trying to figure out how to schedule this things. But hey, maybe we'll actually get to the halfway mark before things break on us. You never know. In any event, I don't really have any announcements. I want to actually get started with this game for once. So let's do introductions for the third time, and then we'll get started proper. So, Matthew, if you could tell us about yourself and who you're playing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew. Very little to say about myself because I have no socials to plug or the like. So I will be playing the captain of the U.S.S. Captain Zoval, an aged Andorian.
All right, Techno Nerd.
I'm Techno Nerd or Tech. I'm playing the also Andorian tactical officer, whose name is escaping me. You can find me on Twitter at Techno Nerd or on Tumblr as well. And I swear, there we go. And I'm playing Lieutenant Commander Terrace Chirintel.
All right. And last but not least, Chris.
I am Chris, no socials. I'm playing JD Valeris, EXO of the Comma.
All right. And let's run that lovely introductory video. And welcome back. So for the third time, Matthew, if you would care to do the opening log for Zoval, that would be appreciated.
So I think we're establishing Sot is in the ready room of the Comma, and it pans over a rather drab ready room, save for a few splotches of color in the form of children's drawings that are affixed in some locations along the wall. And you see that aged, grizzled, rather heavily weathered Andorian sitting in his command chair, and he begins his log. Captain's log, stardate 12009.2. Fresh out of the yards, the Comma's been ordered to the Tholian Federation border. Starfleet Intelligence wants us to use our experimental stealth systems to slip past their gravitic sensor nets and make our way to the Tholian colony world of Pandiva 3. We're to retrieve a deep cover asset, but the identity of this gentleman or lady or otherwise is need to know. How they're surviving on a world populated by Tholians who'd freeze rock solid on a balmy Andoria summer day isn't exactly clear. They've got a special signaling code set up for us when we arrive, and that's all we've got to go on. Admiralty hopes that the crew will get to know and trust one another before we're chucked into the plasma fire. Computer, encrypt official entry in black box recorder for Starfleet Intelligence collection, authorization code Zoval 191 Alpha. Begin personal log. Get to know one another. Have these stuffed shirts even been on a starship before? Or is a lack of experience a qualification for the Admiralty now? Pencil pushers and spooks. What a combination. You stick 20 officers and crew into a sardine can like this, and you're worried about them not bonding? We'll be lucky if this ship isn't all fisticuffs, fraternization, and flirting within a week. End log.
You may have one momentum for that lovely opening log. So, as we said, the scene currently is the captain's ready room. And as of all, you are just finishing up some last minute paperwork after the Comma was quite literally chucked out of the shipyards on this mission. Because apparently you're the only ship that can do this mission. And that's just how it works because every other ship wasn't available until next Tuesday. That said, the other two characters, Valeris and Chirintel, will enter at dramatically appropriate times as you sort of go about the scene in the ready room. But before they come in, you do get a chirp from the bridge, and it is your helmsman, Lieutenant Gix. And Lieutenant Gix says, bridge to the captain.
And he just sets down his pen and taps at the comm badge. Captain here.
I just want to let you know, sir, that we are approximately 2 hours out from the Tholian border. We're making good time, and so far we've not spotted any Tholians at our destination.
Very good. Keep me apprised of the situation. Reports every half hour, please.
Aye, sir.
Captain out.
And then I leave it to Valaris or Chirintel, which one of you wants to enter next.
I can enter next. Captain, and I'll start pulling up some, long range data and historical data we have on some monitors. And say, I believe, we know very little. Most of our data is high level as we approach the destination, but so like we can get in and out.
And what about a primer on the Tholians themselves? Of course, I'm familiar with them generally, their encounter with the Enterprise, the Defiant incident, but anything else I should be apprised of?
The planet is a Demon class planet, and I'll also show some overlays, minimum safe orbits on the screen. So we'll need to come in quiet. We'll need to stay low and hopefully not stay very long on target, sir.
So the captain very briefly takes in the display on the screen. He rises from his command chair. He stands at roughly 6 feet tall, but he is ever so slightly stooped. And as he walks towards the center of the room, somewhat ponderously, you note that he is not exactly limping, but he is not exactly a spry man either. And he takes in that display for a moment. Is there anything we can do to modify environmental suits, something like that, if we actually have to beam down to the planet? I'd like to be prepared.
I'll have something for you before you arrive.
Very good, Commander. And on a perhaps more personal note, what do you think of the ship? You've taken your introductory tour.
Well, other than the 5-week delay to get the mission started, I feel like we're hitting on all cylinders now.
It was quite disappointing, really. Starfleet Intelligence, and that's a bit of a contradiction in terms, isn't what it used to be.
We'll get it there.
Well, we're out in space, and that's really all that matters now.
What about then, at Chirintel, that's when you come in?
Yeah. So the chirp at the door, and as it opens, there's a stern-looking Andorian male who strides into the room. He's looking to be in his sort of early to mid-30s, very slick-backed, white hair. He stands briefly at attention. Captain?
Lieutenant Commander, at ease.
Thanks, sir. Did anyone else get a data packet that was basically nothing, or was that just me?
That's just par for the course, Lieutenant Commander, with Starfleet Intelligence.
Fantastic. Someone will have to remind me why I decided to join Starfleet Intelligence if this is the level of, intelligence that we're going to get. I've done my rounds of the ship, sir. She looks ready to go. Full charge in all the phaser banks. Photon torpedoes locked and ready to fire on command. And we've got those special systems, which, as far as I understand them, seem to be working well as well.
Glad to hear it. Hopefully we'll be using the latter and not the former on this mission, Commander. It concerns me slightly that you were interested in the weapon systems before the stealth systems.
We're going somewhere uncharted in effectively enemy territory, sir. I don't see why we should be prepared for anything other than defensive engagement.
The captain just sort of smiles cheekily as you're relating that, and he says, well, at least, Commander, and then he looks over at their commander, Valaris, I'm pleased to see that you have assessed the systems on the ship for which you are responsible. I've done much the same. My command chair is in perfect working order, because that's all I'm really responsible for, sitting in a chair and giving you orders.
Well, chat just redeemed a complication. So after a moment, you hear a loud thump come from the bridge outside, and then you just sort of hear not quite moanings or groans or, oh, good lord, but you just get this ominous feeling that something has happened to your command chair.
Were they going to install those restraining bolts on the command chair next Tuesday?
I think that's where we're at.
Just taps his comm badge. Captain to engineering, would you please send a work detail to the bridge at your convenience?
And there's a pause, and then after a moment, you hear the infectious, upbeat tone of a Bolian, Lieutenant Commander Arlen, and he says, "Oh, Captain, don't worry. I already got the alert about your command chair now being embedded in the ceiling. It'll be fixed by the time we arrive at the Tholian border."
Considering the circumstances, you might also want to investigate the grab plating on the bridge. That I'm at a loss to describe how that might have happened.
Well, you actually hit it right on the nail, sir. Apparently, the grav plating suddenly ramped up to about 300 in the wrong direction, causing the temporary bolts to break and the chair to go into the ceiling. Glad you weren't in it, though. That would have been quite the concussion had you been sitting in it.
I'm likewise quite pleased. I'm not quite ready to cede command of the ship over to Lieutenant Commander Valeras, although, Commander, raises a hand placatingly, I'm certain that you could handle it.
You can keep the chair for now, especially today.
I think I'll be strolling the bridge for most of this mission.
Should we be worried about any more temporary reversals of gravity or increases in gravity, Lieutenant Commander?
I wouldn't think so.
That was sorry to the engineer.
Oh, to the engineer. Well, I've looked over everything in engineering. Of course, I'm already on my way to the bridge to inspect the grav plating there, but well, that whole 5-week delay where we were supposed to ship out, and then they found that one error with the warp core, and then that sort of almost exploded, and then we were all playing, chickens with our heads cut off, I believe is the human expression. There's a lot of things that I'm not 100% sure on, but don't worry. By the time we arrive at the Tholian border, you will get a green light from me one way or the other. Or worst case, we can all just hop in a shuttle and drift our way into Tholian space. I'm sure that'll work just fine.
Well, let's hope they remember to install the green bulbs.
If there's nothing else then, and he's just going to tap his comm badge and close the channel. Gentlemen, there is one other issue that needs to be addressed. If I am incapacitated, whether that be in combat or by errant inversions of gravitational fields, the responsibility for ensuring this ship's mission's successful completion will fall to the two of you, as well as another very unsavory task. Under no circumstances can the advanced technologies on board this ship fall into the hands of another power. If that requires us to scuttle the ship, even if the crew is still aboard her, that task falls to me. And again, if I'm incapacitated, it falls to, well, one of you.
Let's just try not to get where we're making that type of decision.
Best to be prepared for all potential contingencies.
Agreed.
Lieutenant Commander Chirintel?
I don't like it, sir, but I understand. I'll familiarize myself with the relevant protocols and make sure that engineering are prepared to detonate the warp core in the event that the worst should come to pass.
It's a small ship, though. I would perhaps not share that directly with our chief engineer. I'm not certain of his ability to keep his mouth shut.
Taras very clearly looks like he's holding his tongue wanting to say something about Bolians and not doing so.
Anything else to report regarding the ship, the mission, the Tholians?
Nothing other than what we already know, Captain. I think we're just going to have to play it by ear once we get there.
Very well then, gentlemen. You're dismissed.
Sir?
I'll nod and head to my station.
All right. Well, as I said, in character, there's about an hour and a half before you arrive at the Tholian border. Is there anything you all want to do on the ship before you arrive at the border and the mission truly begins? Checking out places on the ship, meeting any of the crew, and it's an open question to the three of you.
The captain had mentioned I'll look into some modifications for extending or hardening the EVA suits if we need to beam down for any length of time outside of a safe zone.
Okay. That's easy enough to do. If you could go ahead and give me a reason engineering at a difficulty of 2. That'll be our first real roll of the game this time. And thanks to chat and the opening log, you have 2 momentum to mess with at the current moment. Since it has been a reminder, or been a while, I'll give you a reminder. The way you roll on these sheets is you select using those checkboxes, in your case, a reason and engineering, and then you're going to click the perform task button. And it's going to pop up a window asking you a bunch of questions. And let me just take a look at your sheet here to see if you would have a focus that applies.
Would technical expertise?
Sorry, say again?
Would technical expertise count using the ship's computers?
Yeah, I'll let it happen there. The ship will be basically providing an assist with a computers and engineering. So you will get to reroll 1d20. Could be the ship's die. But you don't seem to have a focus unless you want to sell me on one of them.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So by default, you are rolling 2d20. And if you want to buy additional die, it's 1 momentum for a total of 3 dice. It would be 1 momentum, 2 threat, or 2 momentum, 1 threat for 4 dice total. And if you really want to roll 5, I can explain that too, but I would recommend, maybe spending momentum, maybe not. Your call, really.
I won't spend it this time. So let's just click perform task.
Yep. And then it's going to ask, a dice pool, a bunch of questions, and everything should stay default for the time being.
Alrighty.
All right, 2 successes. And then if someone could get the commas, computers, and engineering, and see if there's any extra momentum for you there.
Shall I grab that?
I've got it. That's all.
You've got it.
And use focus.
All right, very nice. So you actually get a momentum back for your troubles. So, Valaris, you punch in the details into the computer, you run a few simulations, and what I will tell you is that if EV suits are required for this mission, they will have the advantage that they are rated for a Class Y environment for a period of 2 hours, which is, if I remember Voyager correctly, 400%, 500% more than usual. So
that's great. Captain, I'll show him my report and I'll update him on the stats, and then we can move to the next scene if we want to.
Okay. Let me check in with the others real quick. Captain, Chirantel, anything you all want to accomplish before you arrive at the border?
I would like to spend a bit more time with the electronic warfare system.
Okay.
Just sort of trying to program in something that's using the long-range sensors to sort of see what kind of debris or detritus we could disguise ourselves as if we need to.
Sure. Why don't you go ahead and give me a reason security on your part, and the ship will assist you with a sensor security. I am going to make the difficulty a 3, but again, you have 3 momentum if you so wish.
Does anyone mind if I grab one of those?
Oh,
please.
go ahead.
Okay. Would you give me the focus of tactical systems?
I'd give it to you because that's definitely an E-War system.
Excellent. Okay. All right. And the complication range was 1, just as usual.
Just standard.
Ooh.
Well, good news. Thanks to the ship, you did get 3 successes, but there is a complication.
I am going to use my focus to re-roll it.
Your focus, or you mean a talent, or?
No, I got the focus of
Well, that just increases your crit range.
You're right, it does. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, let's,
You do
know,
have bold,
let's...
bold security. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you bought with threat, you could have re-rolled. But let me see if there's anything else in your sheet that I can give you here. Yeah, I think unless you want to spend a determination this early to re-roll that 20, I think we just have to keep the complication. But complications are fun.
Let's keep it. I'm happy with it. Yeah, let's keep it.
So, good news. You do spot a few gaseous anomalies and a few bits of detritus, as you put it. The complication, though, is that when you send a scan across the border, you notice that there's an increased power draw from the E-War systems. And you just know that if someone was in the right place at the right time on the other side of the border, they would have possibly been able to detect that there was such a scan taking place. But the good news is you have your choice of asteroids, rogue class D planetoids, comets. You have a lot of things you could use to mask yourself as.
Okay. I think that warrants a report to the captain, just to inform him that we might be going into a slightly more active environment than anticipated.
Okay.
I suppose that he would simply file that report and log it with the bridge, including helm, to be apprised of that sort of orientation of space and the anomalies and features thereof that we'll be traveling into.
All right. Then I guess since we're going around the table, finally, Captain, do you want to resolve anything before we arrive at the Tholian border?
I think the captain's going to do two things. First, he's going to remain in his ready room, and essentially he becomes slightly distracted as he's engaging with his paperwork and crossing off those final details of liaising between departments, seeing as he has so many, I guess, logistical responsibilities to attend to, given that the crew is so small. Most of that kind of falls on him. He is going to head over to some of those drawings on the walls and examine them briefly, kind of places his hand to one of them and shakes his head. Then he's going to just take a tour of the ship, almost like go about the lower decks and just get a lay of the land, speak very briefly with some of the officers, trying to do exactly what described Starfleet intended for this initial portion of the mission, that is, get to know the rank and file of the crew.
All right. Why don't you give me a presence command difficulty of 0, just because you're going around being seen and heard. I believe for your part, you do have a focus, if I remember correctly. Let me double check.
Team dynamics.
Oh, yeah, definitely applies. All right, 3 successes, meaning you get 3 momentum for your troubles. And yeah, so Zaval, you walk about the ship, you meet several individuals. Overwhelmingly, what you're noticing is that there are really only about 5 species on this ship. There's humans, there's Endorians, there's Betazoids, there's Bolians, and then, did I say Betazoid already? If I didn't say Betazoid already, then Betazoid. If not, maybe I've miscounted myself. But either way, the species distribution is very limited. But everyone you meet is happy to meet you. Everyone tries to give you a glowing report of whatever they are currently overseeing. For example, when you stop by sickbay and Trill, that's the 5th one. That's what it is. When you stop by sickbay to see Lieutenant Vol, your CMO, you would notice that she is currently more or less cataloging a series of real world animals and stuff, where it's sort of like what Phlox had going on in Enterprise, where Phlox just had a bunch of random animals because they cured things. Vol sort of has that same sort of thing going on in the very small sickbay on the Kama, where she kind of looks at you and goes, Captain, thank you for coming by. I actually needed you to approve this request to have live tribbles on the ship.
Wouldn't that be considered some sort of war crime with respect to the Klingons?
I don't see any Klingons on board, sir.
There must be some kind of treaty out there that bans the proliferation of tribbles.
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Well, if that's the case, may I ask why you need them?
Well, two reasons, sir. One is that they actually make for a very a very readable food source for the other animals. The other one is that should we encounter any Klingons, having a Klingon detector might be useful.
Quite, quite ingenious. You're into holistic medicine, then, of some sort?
Well, yes, that's why I have my menagerie with me. Don't get me wrong, this sick bay is decent, and as we look around at the sick bay, it's basically a broom closet. There's like 2 bio beds, there's a desk, and that's it. There is no sort of extra space here. It's very small on this ship.
Well, Lieutenant, I respect your optimism and appreciate it. It's always good to maintain a positive outlook.
Oh, with any luck, you won't need any of my holistic approaches.
He sort of looks down at one of the cages that's rattling ominously. I hope not.
Oh, and don't worry about that one. That one's just a Tolarian hook spider. Can't hurt a fly.
Don't they interact quite poorly with not Betazoid, but Trill physiology?
Oh yeah, but that's why I keep it. It's a challenge.
I can respect that as well. Doctor, look forward to working with you.
Likewise, Captain.
And he departs.
All right. Was that everything, or did you have something else? All right. So we are going to skip ahead that hour and a half to where you are just on the Federation side of the border. And at this point, Captain, the lovely chief engineer has indeed gotten your chair out of the ceiling and securely fastened it to the floor. Actually even replaced the grav plating so that he's extra sure it's not going to happen again. But you do note that there was not time to fix the hole in the ceiling. So if you sit down or just look anywhere on the bridge, you would see the exposed wiring, EPS conduits, etc. right above your chair.
He just shrugs, sits down. Helm, what's our current ETA to the border?
Well, sir, technically, if we go any closer, we'll be right across it, and the Tholians will be very mad at us.
Lieutenant Commander, Churintel? Status of the stealth systems?
As far as I can tell, sir, they are online, awaiting activation. There was a slight glitch with the power systems, but whether that's been fixed or not, I can't tell you, sir. That's in the hands of engineers.
And the captain is just going to tap his comm badge. Captain Engineering?
Arlen here, sir. Please tell me your chair didn't,
No, it's still firmly attached to the ground, which is where I prefer my chairs to be. I'm actually inquiring as to the status of this small power disruption in the tactical systems.
Oh, you're referring to the E-War blip that we had earlier. Yeah, this was going to be in my report later, but apparently, sir, the E-War systems have a very large power draw that the engineers of this vessel did not take into account when they installed the new Mark 7 warp core.
And the issue's been addressed?
I've patched it for the time being, but honestly, sir, the sooner we get this mission done and the sooner we're back in Allied space for me to be 100% sure, well, I'll feel a lot better.
I think you've spoken for the entire crew. Once we're back in Federation space, we'll all be a lot happier. Captain out. He surveys the bridge for a moment. Lieutenant Commander, if you're ready, please go to dark mode.
So since this is the first time we are kind of seeing the comma enter into quote-unquote dark mode, we need to define a few things. So the ship does have the slim sensor silhouette, which is similar to a cloaking device, but not quite. It's kind of like a pseudo-cloaking device. But the comma also has prototype incursion technology, which lets it create a holographic shell around the vessel. So when you say engage dark mode, are you just engaging the slim sensor silhouette, or are you engaging the holographic shell as well?
So I think that would be both.
Okay.
We'd be using the holographic shell and correlating that, as long as that's sort of works with the others, correlating that with sensor data that science has obtained and sort of liaised with tactical in order to identify an appropriate object in this region to disguise ourselves as.
Okay.
I'll take the data gathered by the commander, and I'd like to roll to see if I can, aggregate some of that to see what's a common body that's on a similar trajectory to where we're headed.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and give me a reason con? I know totally your power stat there. You do have a focus of astrophysics, but since your con is a 1, you're already critting on a 1, so doesn't really apply. I will set the difficulty here at a 2, though, so you may wish to spend some momentum.
Okay. Can I use, since it's sensor operations, I could use that focus, couldn't I? Or does that help?
I mean, if you had a con that wasn't a 1, it would help.
Oh, okay.
But since your con is a 1, your crit range is already 1, so it doesn't really change anything.
Well, I'd like to spend momentum if that's okay with y'all.
Absolutely.
Am I able to assist at all as well? Because
Yeah, you can certainly assist with reason con on your part.
Okay,
Right.
so spend the momentum
Mhm.
and then just perform task, or do we
Perform
have to?
task, and you want to put in 3 dice on the dice slider now.
Okay, got it. And everything else default.
Correct.
All right.
All right. Ooh. So unfortunately, those are 0 successes, which means even if the good cheer intel rolled an assist, because you don't have a success, doesn't matter. So there's a few ways we can handle this. And again, since you're new, teaching moment, which I enjoy. You could spend a determination here to re-roll as many of those dice as you wish. And the way you would do that is you would tell me what value applies to the situation, and then you just sort of spend your 1 point of determination. Don't really recommend that for this roll, but it is an option. Want to be, up front. Another option you can do is you could succeed at a cost, which basically means that you succeed, but there's a few complications that come with it. The other option is you could just fail outright, which is not a bad thing either. It just means that you don't have a good answer.
How about we say, yes, I find something, but the only thing suitable will need to come in with a constant drift or roll, and it'll make maneuvering hard in some way.
I like that. Very inventive. So yeah, we'll say then that Valares, you find basically this comet that's on sort of a spiral path through Tholian space, where it's kind of just corkscrewing around, as it were. So in order to match this comet, you either have to destroy the comet and take its place, or you have to just mimic that corkscrew and hope nobody notices, kind of a thing.
Sounds great.
Captain, I'd advise against destroying the comet, given our proximity to the Tholian border, or the potential for Tholians to pick up that energy discharge.
I concur. And given the history of stellar formation and the evolution of life across the quadrant, who knows? We might be slaughtering an entire civilization 5 million years down the line. Sorry about that.
I was going to say, grav plating's going again.
It was Space Ghost.
Sorry about that background noise there. Those are the pipes that are being replaced. Yes, so we will do that. Not destroy the comet, but attempt to match its axial spin.
Okay. So this is where that stored momentum you all have is going to come into order here. So the first roll that needs to happen is a control and an engineering at a difficulty of 2. This can be coming from the 3 of you. This can be your engineer, but this will basically put you into the silent running mode. And then if that's successful, we'll move on to the holographic shell as well.
I'd be 13 with control engineering.
I'd be 12, so.
And I'd be 11.
All right. Perform task?
Yep. It is a difficulty of 2. You may wish to spend momentum here. You will have a focus that applies here.
We'll want to. I can spend a momentum.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And that increases die pool to 3, right?
Yep. You would put the dice pool to 3, and this time make sure you check using a focus.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right.
Well, okay, then. Apparently, you came ready to play. Very nice. So that is 5 successes, meaning you actually get 3 momentum, and you are now capped at 6 momentum. So any more momentum that is generated is temporary. It does not get saved to the pool until you go back below 6. So this is one of those moments where you use it before you lose it. But yeah, thanks to your finding of this comet and of your knowledge of engineering, you are able to put the ship into, I believe it is actually called Black Alert because it's the same thing as a spore drive. But you put the ship into Black Alert, and the lights on the bridge all go to like a mix of blue and red. The lights across the vessel all dim. And in general, if anybody were looking at the exterior of the ship, the running lights are off, the nacelle glows have gone, but everything is still running. So you are going to reduce your power by 2 for this, but you are currently in silent running mode. Now we talk about your holographic shell. This would cost 4 power, leaving you with 2. But if you did this, you're basically making it so that any Tholians attempting to break through your cloak or break through your slim sensor silhouette is at a difficulty of 5 rather than a 3. But it would, again, put you at very low power. So I leave that to your all discretion whether or not you actually go with the shell as well.
Urge an overabundance of caution, Captain. I think we should go low power, but unseen.
I agree, Captain. If anything, the system is untested, so this is a excellent chance to, I believe the term is, iron out any bugs.
Well, who am I to disagree with my 2 senior officers? Tactical. Engage the holographic cloaking device.
All right.
Aye, sir.
So this is going to be a control security, and the ship will assist with a communication security. The difficulty here is a 4, so you're definitely going to want to spend some of that momentum.
Say like 5 or something like that.
Let me see. Can I take 3 of the momentum?
You can, but what I would say is your bold security only triggers if you roll with threat.
Yeah.
So you may wish to spend 1 threat and 2 momentum to roll 4 dice total. Or if you really want to go for the full 5 dice in your pool, you could potentially redeem 1 threat and 5 momentum. So chat just gave me another complication. Well, I'll save that for now.
I think I'd rather keep the momentum in reserve if we can.
Okay.
I'm thinking roll the 4 dice.
Okay.
And just risk it. Any agreement, disagreement?
Sounds good.
Okay. So sorry, how many momentum was that I'm taking off?
Well, it depends on how you want to split it up. If you're only going to be rolling 4 dice on your part,
Yep,
you could
and
give
then-
me 2 threat, 1 momentum. You could give me 3 threat. You could give me 3 momentum. You could give me 1 momentum, 2 threat. As long as you get to that number of 3 is what matters.
Okay. Let's go for 2 threat, 1 momentum then.
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that.
And I've still got my focus for the security protocols,
You definitely do.
tactical systems. Okay.
All right. Well, there's the 4 you need. Can I get a communication security from the ship? All right. You're back up to 6 momentum. So again,
Awesome.
outside of the ship, because inside nothing really changes, but outside, we begin to see sort of these dull blue glows begin to emit from the dorsal and underside of the ship. And constructing out of seemingly nothingness, we now see this corkscrewing comet that now represents the ship traveling at speed. And as this all happens, Chirintel, you are able to tell that it's going to be a snowball's chance in hell, the Tholians finding you, unless they shoot you or more or less bump into you at this point.
Captain, the systems are online. We're just another piece of stellar debris. Helm, maintain course speed until ordered otherwise. Yeah, we are dark, sir.
Excellent work, Lieutenant.
How go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Uh, I want to see how diminished our sensor capacity is on low power, just in case we need to, go to tactical quick.
Okay. Why don't you give me a insight and science on your part? Difficulty of 2.
All right. Let's see, I don't know if anything would. No.
And you do have sensor operations, which would apply as a focus.
Okay, and that's 2 dice, right?
Yep. 2 dice by
Mhm.
default. Yep.
I'll get
2 successes. So you would know that just as has been discovered with the E-War systems, there will be a momentary power surge, not power loss, but power surge when you use your sensors.
And but how much is our reduced capability? Can we still do long range scans at low power?
Yeah. In fact, you can perform pretty much any scan you want. Just again, there is a power surge that will occur.
All right.
Then I suppose the captain would order us into Tholian space, keeping us at a mid-warp to avoid creating a massive subspace distortion that might be enough to give away our position.
Okay. All right.
Can I roll Starfleet protocol to see the ramifications? I know this is a mission, a given mission, but I will remind Captain if there's what statute we're breaking or if we're violating some treaty.
No roll required. You can literally make one up if you want.
Captain, just to put it on record, we are, violating statute 213 of the graphene document. And if we're discovered, we'll need to tread lightly, sir.
Well, hopefully we'll tread lightly before we're discovered in order to obviate the need for any further action on our part. But you're quite right, Lieutenant Commander. We are in direct violation of treaty with the Tholians. Of course, we were in direct violation of the treaty with the Tholians the moment that we put some sort of operative on one of their planets, but that's probably beside the point. You're going to find that that's par for the course, just like the incomplete reports with Starfleet Intelligence.
Valeris looks a little taken aback and nervous. It is my first time off of Starfleet Intelligence headquarters, sir. Just shaking out the nerves a little bit.
I would be worried about you, Lieutenant Commander, if you weren't. And you keep citing regulation. If we're going to break them, we might as well know what we'll be charged with if Starfleet has to disavow any knowledge of our missions.
I'll return to my station and continue scanning.
So it is with this that we're going to skip ahead in time a little bit, probably about half a day, so about 12 hours, because again, you're only going at a leisurely warp rather than a full warp, so it takes you a little bit to get to where you're going. But when you arrive at the Pendiva system, or the Pendiva system, you do see that there is a Class O star, so blue giant star. You see that there are 3 planets. Pendiva 1 and 2 are Class D moons, nothing of value on them. But Pendiva 3 is the Class Y demon planet of your destination. I'm actually going to spend the complication that chat has redeemed me, and I'm going to spend 2 thread of my own to say that there are 2 complications that are come into play here. The first is that the sun is going through a turbulent phase, meaning that it is going to play havoc with your sensors. So it's not a quite full ion storm, but it is going to make scanning and getting a transporter lock a little bit more difficult than usual. The other complication is that there is a Tholian vessel in the system. It is a simple orb weaver, so kind of a scale 3, scale 4 vessel, similar to your own, but there is a vessel in the system. It doesn't seem to be really doing much other than hanging out in orbit of Pendiva 3, but when you enter system and begin, comet corkscrewing, it doesn't seem to make any scans towards you, doesn't seem to start moving towards you, no weapons charge, nothing of that nature.
So the captain will just sort of look over his shoulder at Lieutenant Churintel. Lieutenant Commander, do you have any tactical assessment of that orb weaver?
I'd based on the intelligence reports I've seen, sir, I'd put it at about roughly on par with our tactical capability. No count on crew, unfortunately, and no way of knowing really too much about their sensor suites or any other systems they may have online. The reports we have on the Tholians are incredibly sparse, sir.
Well, really all that we know about them is that they're intensely xenophobic and thus don't care for anyone violating their territory.
I agree, sir. I'd say if we were going to approach this in any way, it would be with the expectation that we don't want to engage with them.
Lieutenant Valares, how close on our current course will we pass towards the planet, and how close will we pass towards that orb weaver given their current trajectory?
Can I scan to see if anywhere along our path we could stop the corkscrew and either hold position in some sort of cover, or at least alter our trajectory to maybe pass behind the planetoid where we're off the sensors?
What I would say is that this is another teaching moment. You can spend 2 momentum to create that advantage.
Y'all okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. So, yeah, you actually get to answer that question yourself.
Captain, if we can come out of the corkscrew maneuver, as tricky as that may be, behind a rogue moon that's in orbit around the planet, we'll be on the opposite side of the ship and possibly almost cloaked.
Using both the moon and the planet as a shield against their sensors. Excellent, Lieutenant Commander. Helm, please do your best to carry out the Lieutenant Commander's plan.
Aye, sir. Let's see what I can do. And Gix kind of cracks his neck a little bit and says, all right, just like they taught us in the academy, or maybe not like the academy. I never was Red Squad. And then, so I'm going to actually have Gix make the roll here. So one of you needs to do the roll for him. He is doing a daring and a con. He does have a focus, but I am going to set the difficulty here at a 4. I suppose the ship can also assist with an engine's con on its part.
So I'm going to say this seems fairly important. I'm thinking about spending momentum and threat to roll at least 4 dice.
Great. Minimum.
Okay. I'll give you 3 momentum to roll 4 dice.
Okay.
And then if somebody could get the ship.
What are we rolling on the ship?
Engine's con, and the ship always rolls 1 die and always has a focus.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, Gix already has the 4 successes. No help from the comma, but it's not a complication. That's all that matters. So yeah, again, narratively what we see is we see the comma in comet form drift behind one of this rogue moon that's just passing through the system that happens to be in orbit of Pendiva 3. And it is at this point that you sort of enter into not quite geostationary orbit, but now you have the rogue moon and the planet itself between you and that orb weaver. And you are within range to send the handshake signal at your convenience.
Tactical?
Yeah.
Send the signal.
Yes, sir. Sending now.
All right.
I want to continue to scan the best I can to monitor the Tholian ship to see if they power up, alter course.
Okay. It has been so noted. Trying to think if I want to make this a roll or not. Go ahead, and for the signal sending, if you could give me a control and a security, and the ship will assist you with a communication security, difficulty of 1. And that difficulty is going to be coming from the turbulent star complication that I introduced earlier.
Okay. I'm happy to roll just as is then. So I don't think I have anything that will assist at all in the way of focuses?
Well, you have
Yeah,
infiltration. I mean, I gave you infiltration.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Brilliant. Yeah, okay. Just the 2 dice then. Here we go.
Mhm. All right. Well, you got 3 successes, and then if someone could get communications and security for the ship, you might even get more.
Okay, I got it. And it's a dice pool of 1, correct?
Correct. Always with a focus. There you go. So that's 5 successes total, which means I believe you're capped. No, you're at 5 momentum. Very nice. So you send the signal, and within not even 30 seconds, you get a reply signal with a set of beam out coordinates. Again, you have no information about what it is you're beaming out. You just are given a set of coordinates and more or less told beam X out.
Commander Churintel, Lieutenant Valaris, I'd like you to head to the transporter room, perhaps with a small security detail to welcome, presumably, our guest. And you may wish to activate the transporter's containment field before beaming them up.
Can I recommend we also beam up some of the atmosphere, sir? We don't know what we're beaming up or if it'll survive in our own, but presumably it's surviving down there.
I don't want gases from a Y-class planet gumming up the transporter systems.
Fair shout, sir. On my way.
I'll follow him into the turbo lift.
All right.
I'll grab myself a phase pistol or a phaser, depending on which we have at the moment, as I head into the turbo lift.
All right. So Valaris and Churintel in the turbo lift, and you arrive at the transporter room in short order. It's not so much a transporter room as it's similar to what we see on Enterprise and what we see on the Defiant, where it's just kind of an alcove more than anything else. But the engineering officer on duty kind of looks over at you and goes, "Ready to beam up, sirs, on your command?"
Energize.
All right. So after engaging the sort of force field, just in case whatever it is hostile, there's a blue beam-in sequence, and appearing before you is not what any of you were expecting. You see a Tholian beaming onto your vessel in some sort of environmental suit.
I'll turn to the transporter technician. Engage a force field now. Is that tech available back then? I don't think it was.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
And yeah, Terrace is just going to level the phaser directly at the transporter pad.
Okay. So
precisely at the Tholian.
Right. So the Tholian, again, kind of a crystalline spider-like creature with 6 legs and kind of an what's the word I want? Not quite anthropomorphic, but it's very spider-like overall. But in the environmental suit, all you can really see is kind of that glowing red sort of faceplate where you see kind of that trapezoidal head. And it actually holds up one of its arms and says, "I am not your enemy. My name is Princess Zin, and I am requesting asylum." And with that, we're going to go to our 5 to 10 minute break. We'll be back shortly, everybody. Stick around. And welcome back to part 2 of the series premiere of Star Trek, The players so far have found their way into Tholian space and have apparently beamed up a Starfleet Intelligence asset that turned out to be a Tholian princess? More on that as the scene evolves. And again, where we last left off, you all were in the transporter alcove as a Tholian in an environmental suit beams in and identifies themselves as Princess Zin, Z-I-N.
Say, Princess, I'm Commander Valaris of the U.S.S. How may we assist?
Well, it is you who can assist me by taking me back to Federation space.
I'll ping my communicator and say, Captain.
Captain here.
We have a unusual guest on board. I suggest you come to the transporter area.
Can you convene in the conference room?
Can we move her with her atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, she's in an
She's in
environmental
environment.
suit, so.
Yeah, I forgot. Yes,
Will
yes,
that fit
Captain.
through the corridors?
I forgot. Sorry about that. Yes, Captain. We'll be right there. Give us a few minutes.
Very good. Lieutenant Commander Valeris, Captain out.
This way, Princess, and I'll nod at this at the Lieutenant Commander and say, should we? Do you think we should increase security or just at a loss here?
I think it wouldn't hurt, and I think at that he taps his own comm badge. Security to the briefing room.
Aye, sir. How many do you wish to send?
Let's have 2 on the door, please.
Aye, sir.
And closes the channel and just takes up position as if to follow the commander and the guest as they leave the transporter room.
All right. The good news is... Go ahead.
I turn to the princess and I say, Princess, is there anything you can give me before we get there so I can filter this for the captain as needed?
And you see that there is that sort of pregnant pause where you're not sure if she understands what you're asking or if she wants to respond. And eventually she settles on, I think it would be best that you all heard it at the same time.
Well, I'll nod and we'll continue on.
All right. So when you arrive in the conference room, it's very similar to Voyager's. It's just maybe a hair smaller than that. So not a great table in the middle, but still a round table all the same. Between the captain, Valaris, Chirintel, the security at the door, and the princess, it's very much a happening place on the ship. But, Captain, when you walk into the briefing room, there's a Tholian in an environmental suit waiting for you.
So he is slightly taken aback as he sort of strolls into the conference room, and he stares for just a second too long, smiles somewhat wryly, and then moves towards the table to take a seat.
I'll introduce you as the captain. This is Princess Zim of the Tholian Federation.
Princess, it's an honor to meet you. I had assumed that our contact would have to be a Tholian to survive on a world habitable for your species. Just didn't expect it to be somebody of such a presumably high rank.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, I am only 237th in line to the throne.
That's still quite substantial.
It is, and you see them kind of look around the room. This is a intelligence ship, so I assume that all rooms are security protocol enabled?
Grass just gives a nod to the captain.
Yes, Princess.
Then I must inform you of 2 grave tidings. The first is that the Tholian Assembly is working on a way to, for lack of a better term, convert planets to Class Y by force. Are any of you familiar with the Genesis device?
I think we all look around at the mention of that.
What is out of game or out of character Starfleet protocol regarding the Genesis device? I imagine that some captains would have access to that information, or...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you would know it's a thing, you would know it's classified, and it's kind of need to know, but captains can look up that information pretty easily.
Can I roll, well, not some focus. Can I make a roll to see if there's something we're compelled to do?
Like a Genesis directive?
Yeah, I'm just debating if we want to make this a roll or if I just want to say. I think since you're at 5 momentum, we'll just go ahead and say that if the princess knows about the Genesis device, you definitely don't want to lose her, is how I put it. Because if she gets in the wrong hands, that's not good.
Captain, I suggest we get underway as soon as possible.
And he looks to the princess. Princess, this project, is it nearing completion in the immediate future?
Yes. In fact, within 2 months' time, they are about to practice the deployment of the, I'm not sure it would translate, but they are attempting to test a prototype on a Class D moon near the border. If it is successful and converts to a Class Y environment within a series of days, then I fear that they may weaponize the device.
Are you carrying a communique or any data on the target?
Yes, and she actually kind of taps the sleeve of her left arm, and a little data shard pops out, and she holds it out to whoever wants to take it.
I'll take it and enter it into the tricorder, and I'll make a roll to see what's on it and start to plan. And
again, because it's a Starfleet Intelligence asset, handing it to you, and again, you are at 5 momentum, no roll required. You do see that there is indeed a Class D moon that is in an otherwise uninteresting star system near the Tholian Federation border. You would see that the prototype device is actually being constructed on Pendivia 3 at this very moment.
Captain, it looks like we are not far from their target, and they're building it now. Does it have any data on a timeline for completion, or did you just say that? Did I miss that?
2 months. 2 months.
2 months. And it concurs with what she's told us. It's imminent.
Given that we are within Tholian territory, now seems an ideal time to try to effect some form of sabotage. Suggestions in that regard based on a preliminary examination of the data, Lieutenant Commander Valeris?
Did I see anything about the facility or where it might be on Pendivia 3?
Yes, in fact, you are able to tell, very similar to Utopia Planitia, where it is just a colony on the surface of the planet. It's a facility on the planet's surface. You have the coordinates for the facility, and if you wanted to go to a view screen and tap in the coordinates, you would be able to see it as well.
Okay, we'll pull it up, and I say, Captain, whatever we're going to do, it'll have to be fast. It'll have to be in and out. And we said it was 2 hours with the environment suits, right?
Yes.
With 2 hours, that's anything goes wrong, it's going to be ugly.
Captain looks over the sort of display of the planet. Lieutenant Commander Chirintel, do we have any further scans of the facility itself? Anything that might allow us to better plan some covert action?
I'm not sure what detail these scans go to, Captain, but it's certainly something that if the princess is willing to divulge any information she has on the layout of the facility, perhaps we could plan some kind of ground strike or sabotage, as you mentioned, against the weapon.
All right. Go ahead and Chirintel, since this is a difficult roll, we're going to actually have you do the roll. Go ahead and give me a reason security, let's say difficulty of 4 on this one. And you will have infiltration as a focus.
Okay. Difficulty of 4. I'm gonna have to. If I spend 3 momentum, I'll get 1. No, I'll get 2 dice. Is that right?
Yeah, You'll be at a total of 4. And remember, security, you need bold. It's for you need to spend some threat.
Yeah, so I'd also like to give you 1 threat and get the 4th dice as well.
Okay.
No, sorry, the fifth dice?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you only gave him the 1 momentum, if you only gave him the 1 threat.
3 momentum and 1 threat.
Okay. So that'll get you still 4 dice.
Okay, yep. Okay.
And would the ship's sensor security be assisting with that?
They would, yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I'll roll the 4 then. And here we go. Sorry, just checking. It was reason and security, yeah?
Correct.
Here we go.
Hey. All right. Well, there's already 5 on the board and no help, so you actually get a momentum back for your troubles. So Chirintel, you combined with the sensor readings that you're getting from the comma, in addition to what the princess has provided, you have a full layout of the facility. You have the security protocols. You have everything you could need to get in and out of the facility. But as sort of a devil's advocate here, as you're looking at the facility, it's out in the open. It's not exactly shielded or armored. You could effectively orbital strike it if you really wanted to.
Captain, the way I see it, we have three options, tactically speaking. The first and potentially the most dangerous is that we withdraw and inform the greater Starfleet Intelligence Agency and formulate a more detailed plan of how to address this. Secondly, would be to, I believe, and he sort of points at the screen, bringing up various points of the facility. If we insert a small security team either here, here, or here, with enough thermite charges, I'm sure that we could probably either level it or at least render it unusable. And ice willing, we could make it look like some kind of accident that has overloaded some kind of power generator, such as the one here. And our third option, and this is the one with perhaps the most diplomatic consequences, is, well, sir, I did say that we had photon torpedoes loaded. And I think 2 or 3 of those would probably level the entire facility.
Captain, I would agree we maybe choose the middle ground there, and we have the lieutenant commander come up with a plan for the strike team rather than an orbital attack. What if the residual energy, types it as Starfleet? I think he could disguise that as a failure on the facility's part. A little cover for us.
Conceivably, sir, yes.
Lieutenant Commander, I think you might be onto something. Being overt will almost certainly unveil Starfleet's involvement. And at that, he turns over to the Princess. Princess, first, I would like to express my personal gratitude and that of the entirety of the Federation for your bravery in coming to us with this information regarding a weapon of untold and ungodly destructive power. Secondly, I'd like to know, based on your familiarity with your own people, their politics, what would happen if the device failed, if the experiment was a disaster? Would they abandon the project?
Well, if the experiment does not happen as is expected, I suspect that the broodmother in charge of the project would either be re-educated, I believe is the appropriate translator phrase, or they would be disposed of. Failure of this magnitude is not very well taken in the Tholian assembly.
Which, if I may raise an additional point, options 2 or 3 do come with the risk, or indeed the certainty, of Tholian casualties. Sir.
Lieutenant Commander Valaris, can you pull up the information we have on the Class D planetoid on which they intend to deploy the, for lack of a better term, Genesis device?
I'll put it on the screen. I don't recall. It was just a airless rock, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Captain, their intended target is basically just a rocket space. I'm sure it's a very early alpha test.
As I understand it, the initial Genesis planet had to be selected with incredible care and attention to detail. Any indigenous life whatsoever, even on the level of a microbe, could completely disrupt the resulting matrix. Could we throw our clogs into the gears here? Could we somehow disrupt the planet itself in a way that wouldn't be detected by the Tholians, and yet render the experiment a failure?
I believe in the original experiment, the presence of life made it too random, and it would fail. Is there a way I can scan? I mean, the only life forms that exist on demon planets are silica-based, right? The Tholians.
Well, anything that can really survive a Class Y silicon, some carbon could do it. But what are you looking for in particular? Just a random life sign, or?
I think he was thinking if we could introduce something into the matrix that would be generated by the detonation of the device, it would render the results bad enough. Maybe they give up. Is that the vein you're going for?
Basically, is there anything that we can do to the planet, like introduce some kind of contagion that wouldn't be detected, that would render the results of the experiment when they try to terraform it a colossal failure?
Okay, I'll use. I don't really think I have anything. Could I search the database for some type of life form we could plant and maybe use some type of radiation to spark enough growth in the long term that would
Yeah.
disrupt it?
Let's have you do either an insight or reason. You get to pick which. Plus medicine here.
Ooh.
And you will have a focus, but again, since your medicine is a 1, no help there. I am going to say that this is a difficulty of 5, which, again, now is probably when you want to spend that determination, because if you use determination after a roll, you can re-roll as many dice as you wish, but if you use determination before the roll, you can start with 2 free successes.
Okay. And is it better to, can you spend more than 1 determination?
Everybody starts with 1, so everybody by
Okay.
default starts every mission with 1.
Okay, then I'll spend 1.
Okay.
And
What value are you tapping to justify the determination spend?
Well, I guess it's could I make do with what you have because I suck at this and I'm just kind of winging it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay.
And if I could, I have voice of authority and advisor. Considering that this was sort of a suggestion, a plan that has been directed by the captain, would I be able to assist with presence and command?
I would allow it, yes.
Okay. I'm going to give you 2 threat.
Okay, so
to
that
use
is
voice of
another
authority.
1. So you're starting with 4 successes. Very nice.
Can I use I can spend 1 momentum to use did the reading and use science on the task instead of medicine?
You could.
Okay. So I'm just going to spend the 1 momentum and change it to science, and that'll be much better.
And you will have a focus, so that's even better.
All right. And it's a die pool of 3,
2, and make sure that you check that you have a using determination value as well.
Okay, well, here we go. Oh, wait, does complication need to be 4?
Nope, complication stays
Okay.
as it is. All right, so there are 2 successes there, plus 2 from the captain. So that's totally 4, so you may wish to use advisor to reroll that 19 or 17.
Yes.
All right, so the way it works, Chris, is you either click the reroll results there in chat, or you just perform task again with a dice pool of 1.
So re-roll the dice pool of 1?
Just 1 die in the dice pool. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, there's the 5 you need. So, Valaras, you're running scans of the planet below. You're running scans, or not really scans, but you're combing through the database of what could disrupt the experiment the best. And then you realize that there is an esoteric individual, or not individual, an esoteric species on the comma as it is. And Matthew's already figured it out, but would you like to take a random guess before I reveal what the special creature is?
I wouldn't want to steal it from you, please.
Is it a tribble?
It's a tribble, yep.
Should have played a Klingon.
But yeah, you get enough tribble and you seed their, well, I guess it's kind of morbid if you see tribble corpses on the moon.
Yeah.
You'll disrupt the Genesis device experiment.
Captain, it turns out that even in the short time we have to get there and make this happen, we can spur some tribbles mating, and we should be able to disrupt this. Bad for the tribbles, good for us.
Considering the rate at which they reproduce, I imagine the ship would be overrun if we gave them free reign of it before we arrived at this D-class planetoid. But excellent work, Lieutenant Commander Valares. I'm glad to see that you were able to liaise with the medical database.
I'll head down to medical or to science, and I guess is there just like a little alcove, or is there even a science area on this ship?
There is a science lab that is adjacent to the sick bay, but it's basically the same sort of. There's 2 consoles and a desk, and that's it.
Captain, I'm going to head down to assist science with the preparation and start with the tribbles, if you don't mind.
Not at all, Lieutenant Commander Valeris, please.
Well, I'll leave the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And the captain just briefly turns over to Lieutenant Commander Chirintel. Commander, I was impressed by the tactical deployment strategies that you suggested. Nonetheless, I think you can understand why I elected to go with a less violent option.
Captain, it's your ship and your decision. And anything that doesn't put any of my security team in harm's way, I can get behind. I just want to make sure that you have all the options available to you at any given time, sir.
It's very much appreciated, Lieutenant Commander. Thank you.
And he looks a bit conflicted for a moment. I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't mention some kind of issue, sir, with, well, sir, I know they're tribbles, sir, but we want to just litter their corpses on this planet, and that seems like it should cross some kind of line, sir. They're living creatures, even if they're non-sapient.
That is true. Of course, they are on the ship to be bred and fed to the doctor's menagerie. A quick euthanasia might, in fact, be more palatable.
Do I hear this as I leave, or am I already gone?
Your call whether or not you hear this.
I'll stop as I approach Togolift. I'll say, Lieutenant, I understand. I would imagine if we did breed and kill some, it would be quicker and more fail-safe for success. But I can look into a way of possibly, if we can do it in time and enough volume, maybe vat grow some compatible tissue that's could be mistaken for tribbles.
I mean, even some kind of single cell, as I understand it from the briefing you've just given, even some kind of very simple single cell organism could be sufficient. But as I say, sir, I just wanted to lodge my concerns. It's your ship and your decision.
I respect the concern that you have for all life, sapient or otherwise. Your objection is noted, and I will certainly record it in my log.
Very good, sir.
I'll leave and start the work.
Princess just sits there awkwardly, waiting for...
I was actually going to deal with her next. Before Lieutenant Commander Chirintel departs, the captain's going to turn back to the princess and sort of fold his hands on the table, leaning in. Mm-hmm. Princess, what can we do to assist you now? Are you going to be returning to your people, joining us, or...
Well, I understand that the Tholian Assembly at large may not want an embassy on Earth, but this might be an excellent time to establish one.
If that's the case, we will, of course, welcome you. And I think I could think of no one better than a Tholian as concerned with the preservation of all life as you.
Thank you, sir.
Princess? And if that's it, he will get up and depart for the bridge, signaling for Lieutenant Chirintel to come with him.
All right. So real quick, because I have so much threat, I'm just going to maybe throw a monkey wrench into plans here because, well, you know, the Tholians, there is an orb weaver in the area. They could conceivably, you know, suss you out with their sensors. All right, let me expand that because I rolled it manually. Let's see. So that's 1, 2.
47 though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so it is 4 successes because I rolled an 8, a 10, a 4, a 16, and a 9. So they didn't get the 5 they needed. So you're lucky that when you begin to fly away from Pandivia, the Orb Weaver does not make any motions towards following you, scanning you, nothing of that nature. But since we are sort of coming to the end of the episode, I will simply point out that if you all want to save the Tribbles, which is a noble goal, though I think the Klingons would disagree with you, you do have 2 momentum that you could spend to make the advantage that you are able to find a Tribble substitute, I think is the word we'll use.
I'm all for it.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, as we wrap up this session, then what we're going to see is we're going to see this corkscrewing, comet going through space. It stops momentarily above a Class D planet, and then we see a transporter signal on the surface of this Class D planetoid, and it's just kind of like not quite an incubation tube, but it's basically a cylinder, glass cylinder with a faux Tribble in it. And then you sort of zoom back towards the border. And as far as you know, no Tholians knew you were ever there. But yeah, before we wrap up proper, though, is there anything anyone wants to accomplish before we end the session for today?
I'm good.
I think that's a nice concluding moment.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Then in that case, you get across the border, you disengage your cloak and your hollow shell, and you begin flying towards the nearest starbase. And that's where we're going to end session 1 of Star Trek Comma. So yeah, what'd you guys think now that we actually got to play?
Oh, I had a great time. It's a
Likewise.
surprise. Princess, big surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Excellent.
Indeed.
All right, well, Twitch stick around, but YouTube, this is where we'll see you later. Bye, YouTube.